Lynn Rosenblum and I have worked together on a couple of cases
Correct.
where I needed an expert witness, particularly in product development and in the marketing of toys. The fabulous and talented Lynn Rosenblum.
Thank you, Lisa. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, why don't you just tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the toy industry?
So my first assignment was actually working with Mattel Toys, and that corporation has always been great at having the creative and the business side overlap. And it was frankly a great university. And there I got exposed to a lot of the legal folks that worked there and worked on different cases with them while I was at Mattel. So let's start with just simply some of the what I would call brand dictionary or toy dictionary words that are used in the industry. And one that you mentioned is so important is play pattern. And play pattern not only matters for toys, but it can be used for fishing gear or vacuum cleaners or just about any other consumer products. And it has to do with the way it's used and what are like the features, attributes, and benefits of the product. So here, when we talk about play pattern on this, one thing might be the hair, the brushing of the hair. One thing might be playing with the wings, moving them back and forth. Another might be watching the fun sparkles that are in the legs, kind of looking at them and maybe tipping it back and forth. So there's multiple play patterns. Another one might be if you had two of these and you play with them together. So there can be many different kinds of play patterns.
How does a toy like this come into existence?
One is just talking about in general, like toys and toy ideas, where do they come from? A toy idea can come from a trend, for example, like for instance, one particular year, if you look at all the girls now and you go to any place and see a lot of young girls and even older women now all have these colored streaks in their hair, like the purple myself. But the streaks in the hair and the different colored hair, it's almost like we've seen that in toys for a while and it's gone into fashion for hair. But again, that would be an example of something that might be trending, whether in clothing or hair, or one thing is multicolors and then it shows up in a toy. So trending is one thing that's always looked to, and that's, you know, a couple things here. Snow globes were really popular a couple years ago. So again, you saw them in different movies and such, and then, you know, you see it used as a feature in product. So it's interesting, though, that from a toy company perspective, these ideas can come from many places. Most toy companies have some inside designers who come up with ideas, and then the toy industry in particular is very open, depending on the company, to inventors. And they don't necessarily have to be toy folks. They can be from arts and crafts. They can be kitchen design people. You know, it just might be anybody who has some good idea, or it doesn't even have to be a complete idea. It can be just maybe a feature that needs to go into a toy, and a toy company will vet that, look at it, and possibly purchase that to go into something. It's kind of like what you see on Shark Tank a little bit. And there was a toy show, I think it's still on ABC, Toy Box. So you'll see elements of that. And I've actually worked with some inventors who have gone on to be on that TV show. So again, the ideas, they come from trends. They'll come from people inside the toy companies, and sometimes they come from just outside sources like inventors. So, and sometimes, you know, you never know where that great idea for the next wonderful toy is going to come from. And sometimes they're uncredited. There's certain toys I think people are unsure, like, where did it come from? You know, so that can happen too.
You know, I was at a party over 4th of July, and one of the kids at the party had it wasn't a fidget spinner.
Yes,
But
that-
it was a
it's funny.
fidget. It was a fidget something. It was
Yeah.
like a textured, interesting little object. And I've
Right.
heard so much in social media about fidget spinners. Like, what
Right.
are these things? The fidget spinners or this offshoot,
Yes,
the
and
extension.
that's one. And again, I'm not going to say that I'm for sure on this, but where, who exactly came up with, because some of these toys you have to be very careful, especially in that novelty arena where it's the, under $10, it's a piece of plastic, and when it's not patented, because again, then it's could be a knockoff and whoever comes out with it first. So the fidget spinner was one of those things that kind of went up real fast, came out, a lot of knockoffs, a lot of colors, a lot of sizes. You have a fidget spinner this small and a fidget spinner this big and this big and this big. Of course, the original idea is that you can put it in your pocket and, take it anywhere, but I think they, came in all sizes. Those kinds of toys, sometimes it's really hard to track exactly what are the origins of it.
Well, you use the word novelty, so maybe that's the next piece of vocabulary you can help define to a regular audience. What is the difference between what you say is a novelty, like the fidget spinner, and then something like this? This is some sort of a character. Like, what makes something a novelty, and why is it important to differentiate that piece of the market?
Usually a lower price point. A lot of them over the years, whether it's Koosh Ball or Duncan Yo-Yo or Fidget Spinner, again, some of these are brand names and some are not. It's probably like a rack toy. It might not necessarily be a brand that it's going to have the breadth of all the different SKUs. I don't know if you know what that means, that stock keeping unit or products. Something like this particular item, some of these small doll brands like My Little Pony, Polly Pocket, LOL Surprise is another one that's really big from MGA now. There's multiple features, multiple price points, and there's something called a planogram that when you go into a Target or a Walmart, or even if you go into a specialty toy store, you're going to have a section, and you're going to have low price points, mid price points, higher, depending on what the retail distribution channel is. Of course, I would, if somebody forced me to give a definition, I would say that novelty is your lower price point kind of comes in and comes out, although some novelty items have been around, forever, and they still continue. I mean, Slinky is another great example, and they're still around and they're still going, and there have been some line extensions to that. I don't know if you remember the Slinky dog. He got his second or third or fourth life. He's like a cat, 9 lives, right? But he's a dog.
He's a character in Toy Story.
In Toy Story.
He
but,
became an actual actor. He went to
yes,
Hollywood.
Yes, so he got like a second career. Maybe some of us should learn from that. He got several careers out of that.
How does maybe social media and all the toy unboxing and playing and review videos affect the market for kids' desire for specific toys?
It's not just a buying purchase, but it's an experience, and that's where I think the hole is right now. And if someone can fill that niche, then I think there's going to be opportunities there. So I'm really hoping. I'm seeing so much negative online with social media. I'm really hoping that folks are. I know a number of companies. I really can't say at this publishing date, but a lot of companies have got some really positive ideas of how to jump on this and make it a positive for the industry. Is it going to come back full force right away in the next year? It's a devastating thing. A lot of folks have lost jobs and it's changed, but every industry's changed, and it's just how people manage it.
Well, I mean, it's a very cyclical business, and now we have a lot of changing conditions in terms of our trade treaties.
Correct.
There's just a lot of change in the wind about taxation. I mean, there's many factors that could affect whether they just go through bankruptcy and open again under new owner,
or somebody buys the trademark.
Yeah, so there's a lot that I can imagine could happen.
Yes.
So let's also think about what other, your business is to know the trends and to teach the trends. What are some other trends in toys and play that you're seeing or that you could predict?
Lisa, it's interesting you asked that question, because normally what I have done in my business, because I do have a business.
Well, you have a consulting business,
right?
You have teaching, you have the expert witness
but
work.
I'll just give it a plug here. My website, lynnrosenblum.com.
Mm-hmm.
I normally, myself or my interns or both, we go into Toys R Us twice a month. So I've had to adjust my strategy. And now what I'm doing is I will do runs into different kind of toy stores. So for example, my run this weekend is San Diego, and there's a chain there, Geppetto's. It's just a few stores. The folks that run it are brilliant. They always find the best toys and specialty. And that is where I'm going to go this weekend, most likely Saturday through Monday, and I will have a new completely fit to print trends report for my clients and folks, and I'll be glad to send you a copy of that. So that will probably be generated, exactly a week from now.
The field work is where you can really understand at a very deep level how people are reacting to a lot of things, not just the toys in a vacuum, but the way they're merchandised or displayed at retail. I mean, a lot of people who don't have a deep marketing background may not understand some of the other things that go into selling toys, like the packaging and the placement
and the pricing.
So what are some of the things, maybe if you're looking at an idea for a toy? Yeah, talk about the checklist a little.
So one thing that I teach is the inventor's checklist, and it's not just an inventor's checklist, but it's a product checklist, and it's kind of all the things that you want to I'd say vet when you're looking at a new product. So you can imagine, if an inventor brings this in, one thing that you want to look at is you want to think to yourself, how would it be packaged? And how many features does it have? And you might say to yourself, oh gosh, it has 6 features. And then you'd be like, wow, 6 features? And I've got to write about all those features on the packaging. And the packaging is going to be about this big. Gosh, maybe I only need 4 features. Or if I'm going to do a YouTube film, how long will a kid watch that? Maybe it's only for this amount of time versus this amount of time. So maybe it costs too much. So therefore, I got to look at cost on my checklist in my head and think, well, maybe I could take 2 of the features and make one product, and I could take 4 of the features and make another product. Or maybe I only need the 2 best ones for this product. So costing enters into the checklist. What am I going to name this product? It kind of looks like a pony. It kind of looks like a snow globe. Is there a trademark or an idea out there that I could own? You're always, looking at that. Or if an inventor brings you something and they already have an idea what their name is and say they've already trademarked it, would you want to purchase that from them? So you're always looking at packaging, costing. You're looking at any legal ramifications. Does anybody else own any piece or parcel of this? You always want to, make sure that you're thinking about that.
Yeah, I had a question about that actually. I mean, you've gone to China where they manufacture dolls and toys quite a bit actually.
Yes.
That's a big part, I think, of what you've done in the past.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, to do the molds and the painting and the assembly in China, I mean, isn't there like a rampant counterfeiting problem in China where the factories are, like there is in the fashion industry? Like, do you see anything like that?
Well,
sort of off-market or gray market knockoffs?
Actually, and I'm not going to say where, but in some of the cities are actually what are called fake markets. and it's so funny. You'll go in and it'll actually say fake market
In English?
No, in Chinese.
Oh, okay.
And then what it'll say is nothing here is fake, and we can't be responsible.
That
so
is
it's,
interesting.
It's kind of interesting, but my experience with China has been very good, and a lot of companies I have worked for have owned their own factories. So obviously, if you own your own, and own your own, that's tough because
that's a
as
huge
far as
financial commitment.
And again, for Americans to own certain things in China, and there's all these pieces and parts. I think over time what you learn is certain vendors are, it's just like any doing business here. Some folks you have a history with, the credibility is there, they know their stuff, whether they're a factory that just does dolls, and how they do this is called root and groom. So it's hair rooting. And actually, this is a pretty good job because you can barely see your stitching in there. But sometimes you look at something like that and you see 3 or 4, I don't want to offend any gentlemen, but bald spots up there, or you see, or women, or you see your threading, etc. And there are different companies, I don't want to name them, but some are really great at rooting small doll and doll hair, and other companies it looks like somebody's been scalped.
Yeah, to the credit of this pony, she does come with like a brush or a comb. She's not as ungroomed as my keeping of her might suggest.
Yes, like most little girls, the first comb is usually lost, so it's probably gone. So I think you want to make sure, though, that when you first purchase it, at least you've got like a straight line going, and that your thread for your rooting is tight, and that it even goes before that because you have to lay out your patterns and all of that, and you want to have people who do that. So there's a whole line of things that have to happen in manufacturing, and that's another thing on the checklist, because you have to think if an inventor brings said product to you, you're going to have to think to yourself, wow, do I have experience doing root and groom? Do I have experience with this kind of material? Have I seen something like this before or not? And is it doable? And have they brought me something that shows me it's doable? Well, wow, there's that. So all of these things, and again, I'm going to repeat them: manufacturing, legal, packaging, name, all of these are on the checklist. And again, that's what I teach at Otis. It's in my syllabus. And we actually spend an entire class where that's all we do is we study this checklist, and it'll also be in a book that I'm publishing for University of Redlands, talking about entrepreneurs and what they should be looking for in product. So it's just something that's been ingrained in my career. This is the list where you want to kind of start your due diligence. You want to say to yourself, does this product, and it's interesting, at University of Redlands teaching entrepreneurship, a lot of these students are not even on product anymore. They're in apps, they're in services. So it's fun for me to be able to adapt this checklist that I've written and kind of copyrighted myself for my book, to be able to say, do these apps work here? Do these services? So it really applies to a lot of things.
Oh, that's really cool. So I guess I'd like to just thank you for coming and telling us a little bit about some of the lingo and some of the considerations in the toy business. And so thanks for talking to us, Lynn Rosenblum, about toys. And
maybe we can do another section on the trends once I get my next trend report. How's that?
Well, that's always going to be
good?
A perennial subject.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for the Art of Law with Lisa Borodkin.
Thank you.